guys, it was so fun seeing all your faces this morning on our Google Meet. I got kicked out of the first call, so that's why I made a second call. So it's nice that we got to see each other. Next week we'll do it on Thursday because there's no school on Friday. It's time for Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Blubber. Let's see what happened at the end of Chapter 2. Oh, they were running in from recess. Okay, Chapter 3, Blubber. When we got back into class, Mrs. Whooshy said, "Right before you went out to recess, I asked if anyone knew how penguins stay warm." "I think I know," said Robbie. "One time I read it in a book that penguins have a layer of blubber under their skin." "That's right, Robbie." "Blubber? What's blubber?" Max yelled out. "Max, please don't call out," said Mrs. Whooshy. "Blubber, blubber, blubber," said Max. Mrs. Whooshy stared at him, and he got quiet. I guess he didn't want a trip to the timeout chair. "Blubber is a layer of fat," Mrs. Whooshy said. "Ew," said Chloe, wrinkling up her nose. "That's disgusting." "No, it's not," said Mrs. Whooshy. "If the penguins didn't have the blubber, then they might freeze to death. That extra layer of fat helps them keep alive. They also have 2 more layers that help keep them warm." "Really?" said Jessie. "Yes, they have a layer of feathers right next to their skin. All those feathers are down feathers." "My Nana bought me a down comforter for my bed," said Chloe, "and it keeps me toasty warm in the winter." "Well, just like the down feathers in your comforter keep you warm, the down feathers on the penguin keep it warm during the long, cold winters." "Cool! It's like it has its own down comforter," I said, laughing. "I guess you could say that," said Mrs. Whooshy, smiling. "But that's only 2 layers," said Jessie. "What's the third?" "There's a top layer of feathers on a penguin, and these are tightly packed together, and they are waterproof." "Sort of like a wetsuit?" asked Robbie. "Exactly," said Miss Whooshy. "That top layer of feathers is covered with a special oil that keeps the penguin dry. When he goes swimming in the freezing water, it can't soak down into his skin. It just rolls off his back." Mrs. Whooshy drew a picture of the 3 layers on the board. "Would you like to do an experiment that shows how the blubber keeps the penguin warm?" Let's see, can you guys see that? There's the diagram of the 3 layers that keep the penguin warm. "Yes, we'd love to do an experiment," they said excitedly. "I'm going to need a volunteer." "Ooh, ooh, 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 me," Chloe squealed. "Mrs. Whooshy is not going to pick her," Jessie whispered to me. "Remember, Chloe," said Mrs. Whooshy, "I only pick quiet people." Jessie and I smiled at each other. Let's see, who's been a good listener all morning? "Robbie, would you like to help me with the experiment?" "Sure," said Robbie. "That's not fair," said Max. "Yes, it is," said Mrs. Whooshy. "Robbie has been on his best behavior all morning. If you want to be picked to do things, then you need to be a better listener." "Now," said Mrs. Whooshy, "we're going to compare what it's like to put your hands in ice water if you have blubber with what it's like if you don't have blubber." "But I don't have blubber," said Robbie, laughing. "We're going to pretend like you do," said Mrs. Whooshy. "First, I'm going to put your left hand in this plastic bag and tape it closed so no water could get in. Then I'm going to cover your right hand in this cooking fat called shortening. That is exactly like blubber on a penguin. And then you put that hand in a plastic bag and tape it closed." "Cool," said Max. After she put the bags on Robbie's hands, Mrs. Whooshy said, "Robbie, you're going to put both hands into this bucket of ice water, and we're going to see how long you could keep your hands in the water before they get cold." Robbie held up his hands in the bags, and we all laughed. "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Then when I say go, put both hands in the water at the same time. Okay?" said Mrs. Whooshy. "Okie dokie," said Robbie. "Ready, set, go." Robbie shoved both of his hands into the bucket of water. Wow, the water's really cold. So he has both hands in plastic gloves or plastic bags, but one hand has a layer of shortening on it, which is kind of like, some people call it Crisco. It's like a thick, buttery substance. "Keep your hands in there for as long as you can," said Mrs. Whooshy. "I'm timing you." After only about 10 seconds, Robbie had to pull his left hand out of the water. My fingers on this hand feel like popsicles, he said. Grape or cherry, said Chloe. Can I lick them? Max asked, chuckling. Oh, no, said Robbie, that's gross. After about 10 more seconds, Robbie pulled his right hand out of the water. That's amazing, he said. The blubber kept this hand a lot warmer. You were able to keep your blubber-covered hand in the water for twice as long, said Mrs. Whooshy. So you can see how having the layer of blubber under their skin really helps the penguins survive in the freezing environment. I'll rub a bunch of that stuff all over my body so I could go swimming in the winter, Max said. Or you could just wear a wetsuit, said Robbie. It would keep you warm and you wouldn't look like a giant grease ball. A giant grease ball, I giggled. That's a good one. Thank you, Robbie, said Mrs. Whooshy. You were a great volunteer. Can I be next? Can I be next? Chloe was whining. I'm sorry, Chloe. We're not going to do the experiment again today, but you could try it at home with your family if you like. You just need to get small plastic bags, tape, some shortening, and a bucket of ice water. But my mom never lets me do anything messy, said Chloe, pouting. She doesn't want me to ruin my beautiful dresses and my shiny nail polish. Oh, brother, Jessie whispered. Robbie, said Mrs. Whooshy, why don't you go wash your hands? It's almost time for lunch, and I don't think you want to eat that grease. While Mrs. Whooshy cleaned up, Robbie washed off his hands and then sat down. I love learning about penguins, said Jessie. I always thought they were cute, but now I know a lot of interesting things about them. Someday I want to go see them in person. Let's hope that they will still be here when you're older, said Mrs. Whooshy. What do you mean? Asked Jessie. I'll explain it to you after lunch. Right now, it's time for you little penguins to go and eat some fish sticks in the cafeteria. Chapter 4 will be called Endangered Animals. So, today, I invite you to write back to me what you think we're going to learn about penguins being endangered. Also, if you want to try that experiment at home over the weekend and post pictures, I'd love to see it. Nice seeing you guys this morning. I will post another chapter from our story Monday morning.